Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your league champ right here, and welcome to the LCC Network.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Commissioner's Clubhouse and the LCC Network for Week 10, Episode 1 of the week. And we got another good show for you. I've got Isaac and Jameson, like always. How's it going, y'all?
What's up? What's up?
What's up, guys? 10. We have 3 games left in the regular season. We don't have a ton planned for this show. We're going to go over maybe a rule proposal or 2 or 3. And really briefly, before we jump in, we just wanted to give you guys an update on the current playoff projections. So we have one person who has clinched their division, and that's Colby. 8-1 record, has clinched the division. He has a 4-game lead with 3 left.
Congrats.
We got to go ahead.
If you want to crown them, then crown them.
8-1 in 9 weeks, 4-game lead. He has clinched the division. So Cody and Storm cannot win their divisions. We'll have to play for the wild card. Congrats, Colby. Number 2, Daquan. Still, I think that's how it was last week, if I'm not mistaken. Hunter comes in at 3. Mondo's still at 4. And then we had a shakeup in the wild card. We had Cody and Michael. Now we've got Michael and Charles. Cody fell out and into a bowl game projections at the moment. But so a little bit of shakeup there. Who put that in the show? I'm not going to say that. Elite 12. Elite 12 projections here. Sorry, guys. Isaac is playing all sorts of random stuff.
Pecker, what the fuck?
Pecker, sorry.
Elite 12. A little bit of a shakeup here. Billy goes back to number 1. BP lost last week to Pat. So Billy falls back into the 1 spot, owns the tiebreaker with Pat. Both of them at 6-3. Pat, you're second. BP is 3rd. Mike is still 4th because of that division.
Did you say DP or BP?
I said BP. B.
You got DP last week, but that's a different story.
Oh, man. Hold on. Yeah,
Between Christian McCaffrey and Tyler Lockett, that was not pretty.
He got wrecked last week.
Jameson, you got wrecked last week.
288.
The entire Elite 12 West got wrecked last week.
I just want to say, Jabril Peppers, I apologize, man. Your valiant effort went in vain as John just put 346 points. I mean, just put it on me. 288 is not bad. I mean, I tried. I put up a good fight, but I was on the ground, and John just kept kicking me. And he's crying, but it looks like I'm crying. He's just kicking me and kicking me. No, it was a great game by him, but I apologize to Jabril Peppers and Mike Evans for giving it their all and scoring half my points, and my defense just fucking collapsing for like the 9th week in a row. My defense just.
But why? Well, I don't understand why John Bostic. You know he's been asked all year. Why plug him in?
He hasn't been asked. Go look. He hasn't scored. He was getting 24, 24, 24, 42, which is way more than Anthony Hitchens has gotten me all season long, except for 1 week. So I thought, hey, if I get 28 points, that'll be way better than what I've gotten the last few weeks.
I don't think it really matters.
He had his worst game. He had one of his worst games of the season. Do what?
Yeah.
I said, honestly, though, I don't think it would have mattered, even if he had his best game.
That would not have mattered, but it really does. It kind of exacerbate my linebacker issues I've had, my LB issues I've had this season, for sure.
How much did what's his name score on your bench? 18.
Who?
Okay.
Hitchens?
Yep.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't have mattered. My linebacker,
we were so
linebacker
wrong
would have
about
been
him. We were
shit
so
all
wrong
season
about
long.
Anthony Hitchens.
Yeah.
So glad
You're right. John Bostic's been consistent, but he hasn't been consistently good. He's just been consistently meh.
Well, he hasn't been great,
point.
but I was like, hey, if I get 28 from him, that's like at least 15 more than Hitchens.
28, you're shooting for the stars with him. You should have been.
Oh, that's not
expecting
shooting
like
for the stars. I mean, it would have been.
I mean, he still let you down. He normally 22 to 24 points, and he gave you 14.
He
so,
did.
Yeah.
He did. It wouldn't have mattered. John scored 346, but I needed any linebacker to try to give me anything, and it just hasn't happened all season long.
You got Thielen.
Yeah, I
got you all up in your Thielens.
got me in my Thielens. I put him in. Oh yeah, he's feeling better, and then he tweaked it in the first quarter and got me 0 points again. So thanks a lot, Thielen. I appreciate that, buddy.
Rashad Jenkins was almost there. He had got you 8.
Yeah, look at Rashad Jenkins the last
God.
4 weeks. He's been pretty solid, and then he got me 8 points this week. So I don't know.
28 for those listening. 28, 23, 36, 24, 33, 8.
8, exactly 8. So that's how I think between my linebacker and Jenkins, I think I had 20 points this week. And
Kevin King.
And Kevin King, and then Thielen. So between the 4 of them, I had, 30 points total or something like that?
32.
Yeah, and still scored 288, but only because Mike Evans and Jabril Peppers tried to carry me from my grave.
Mike Evans got you 62, and Jabril Peppers got you 65.
Yeah. So that's how it's been, man. That's how it's been with my linebackers. Luckily, Sean Williams is back. I got to find a replacement for Thielen this week, so I'll be scouring the waiver wire looking for anyone to get me 10 points. So,
which I'm sure a lot of you are with Bipocalypse or whatever they call it on the Ballers coming up this week. 6 teams on bye weeks this week, so everybody's going to be rushing to the waiver wire to fill some holes in their teams.
Yep, Broncos, Texans, Jags, Patriots, Eagles, and Redskins on bye this week. Guys, did I mention? So Mike 4th, John 5, Isaac 6. You sneaked.
Snake.
Snuck.
Not
snuck. He snuck it.
He snuck it into the playoffs. He sneaked into the playoffs. At the 6th spot, bowl games. Me and Cody at the Visa Bowl right now. Matt and Cameron at the Pizza Hut Bowl, and Jordan and Peyton at the McDonald's Bowl. We don't have a lot scheduled for the show, guys. I know one thing we wanted to briefly touch on, very briefly. We don't want this to turn into a whole soap opera thing or anything. Was potential rule proposals. Just like if you guys had one briefly that you wanted to mention as we head toward. I know we're trying to do that earlier this year, so we kind of saw people's attention and people can vote. Anything you guys wanted to briefly talk about? When I say brief, I mean 5 minutes.
That's not brief. I have actually a whole page of stuff I wanted to
talk
about.
I knew it.
I've already been working
scoring
on
changes that aren't going to 2 points here and 1 point here and that kind of stuff. Please don't say it is.
A couple of them are, but it's to take it down. It's to put the points down, so it's more balanced instead of so top defensive heavy. It's just to try to make offense defense more balanced.
Okay, well, what's one that you could talk about in 3 minutes?
All right, so
Favorite one.
Well, I mean, one, I don't like the bowl games. I've done this every single year. I do not think losers should be rewarded, and yet we're spending our own money, not just us three, just the whole entire league, on the bottom feeders just so they can be active. That's bullshit. You should do bowl games for the people that don't make the actual LCC Critter Bowl or something along those lines. So that's one. 2, I want possibly with the rookie draft to put a limit on the number. We saw this past year with the top shotters, especially, only 2 participated, unfortunately, but they each got 6 people. So they were just stacked, and they used later round draft picks. And then in the Elite 12, we had a lot of people. I've done it in the past years where I've drafted a lot of running backs in hopes that one would do good. So this kind of rule proposal is you get a max of 3. I would say you can submit up to 5 picks, but you can back out of 2 if you want to, but you can only draft 3 players, just to keep enough talent for everybody. and enough talent that might go into the actual physical draft, because some guys don't come out as starters, or an injury doesn't happen until later in the season. So maybe along those lines we might have one of those instances where we can get more people and more talent in the actual draft, which I don't know about the top shotters, but the Elite 12 draft sucked ass because there was nobody there after the first round. And we have to do something to fix that.
Well, I think that
because
is going to be like contracts, right? Like putting contracts on players like we'd have in our other league.
Yeah,
where
but
they have to go back into the player
Yeah.
pool.
yeah, but there's still no set guidelines that require players to ever hit the free agency. Like we would just trade them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah,
But in
that's
our
actually
other
one of my
league, it's like
proposals.
you could trade back and forth, but after a certain amount of time, they have to hit free agency, regardless of how they were traded or what, just to keep talent and players actually in that are worth a damn in the draft. And we just have to figure out what's the best way to do it. It might not be a quick fix. We might have to tinker with it every year, but it's a good. We should find a good starting point where we can work on next year's draft. Cameron was asking today about whose contracts are expiring. There's really not that many when you look at it, because most everybody last offseason traded those
Yeah.
players that had contracts, or they released them. So, I mean, it's kind of null and void of the whole point of the contracts, because they're being reset every time they're traded.
Exactly.
We should have just maybe like a small window where when or if you traded them in that window, it could reset their contracts. But
I don't think
if
it
it's
should at
outside
all.
of that,
Like, because it's just
okay.
gonna be
Anyway,
like
let me
gold
finish
rush.
it.
Well,
It's
damn,
gonna
Isaac,
be a gold
in like
rush.
4 minutes.
I know.
Well, you said
Well,
5.
We got,
It's got 60 seconds. 55. 54. Let him go. Let him do it. Let him say his piece.
All right. So anyway, just like a small window, maybe 2 weeks before the trade deadline, or a certain week in the off season, just to give a point where certain players could be traded to reset their contracts, but it's just an idea. Hopefully you guys will listen and let me know what you think. I mean, if you don't like it, that's fine. Just like I said, give me your feedback. And I think that's as far as all I know off the top of my head with rule proposals so far.
Yeah, we definitely need talent. I think if we don't, we're not going to have a live drafts in the next couple of years. Like, people are just going to be so bored with it. You know what I mean? Like, I know I will. I won't even be looking
Yeah.
forward to it anymore.
Dude, all I did was just sit there and just mark off people.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I did.
Mark,
That was the mark off guy. Like, who's available? This guy.
Pat, you got any?
dude, I mean, I actually had the exact same. Well, to a certain, I mean, essentially the same rule proposal, like where if you trade a player, their contract does not reset. And I don't mean like going back and looking at trades that happened earlier this offseason or in the regular season. I mean going forward. That's just gonna be so much work on our end, and it's just gonna, screw with people.
It's more of a headache than what it's worth.
Yeah. So I think going forward is kind of how I'd like to see that happen. But in my opinion, I don't think there should be a window, just because I think it's still you're gonna have the same thing. Everyone's gonna be trading that same day, and we're gonna have the same issue where players just never hit the draft pool.
But you also know that trades usually don't. Like, there's always going to be. Okay, let me reword it. How many times do you do a trade that it works on the first go round? Usually, it takes time to work on a trade that both parties feel good. So if there's a very small window
before then, though, is the thing.
I know, but what I'm saying is it could be something we try for 1 year, and if it works and a couple trades happen, that's great. But if like a ton of trade happens and it's kind of pointless, then the next year we can just eliminate it instead of taking the drastic step of just wiping it away completely. Maybe we should just take a baby step forward and just see how it works before we take this giant step forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd rather just take the giant step. But
what about your player pool? I know you got to do one of those.
I was about to say this. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I've got a lot of stuff written out, and I feel like people need to actually look at it. If you're like me, I'm kind of a visual and hands-on learner, so me talking about it may not do it justice.
He's very handsy, everybody.
But so for the handful of new people in the league, this may come news for you, but everyone who's been here at least a year will remember last year I did a rule proposal for us, instead of have 2 player pools, to have 1 player pool, so that we have one draft, one live draft, all of us together, a kick-ass draft where, obviously not all 24 people will be there, because we have some people including myself, that live out of state, but the majority.
Boo, boo.
Yeah. But obviously, I don't want to just jump in and keep everything the same the way it is and go to 1 player pool, because it's not going to work that way. There's not going to be any depth. It's going to be even less fun than things are now. My proposal is for 1 player pool, if we go that route, is to reduce roster sizes to 13-man rosters instead of 18-man rosters, and have.
Well, at that point, you would have to, with how many.
That's what I'm saying.
Because, I mean, I'm going to be starting Dare Umbugawale for Tampa. He plays like damn 15%, 20% of the snaps. It's like if you don't shrink the sizes, it's just you won't have.
But 13-man rosters, that is way more manageable. I mean, right now we're in another league where it's 13-man rosters, but 2 player pools of 12 teams in each conference, and there is a ton of depth. I mean, I picked up Julian Edelman off free agency. I don't know any fantasy league in America where Julian Edelman ever was a free agent during the regular season. Like, that's mind-blowing. So I think that tells you how much depth is there with that. Obviously,
and I was going to say, you also have to put in. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, obviously, the player pool is going to be a little larger, so I'm not going to say there's going to be players of that caliber in the free agency, but there's still going to be depth there. Trust me. And I'm working on kind of, presenting that to you guys in a visual format so you can see everything. What were we going to say, Isaac?
The one thing about the other league that's pretty cool is the roster restrictions. Each position has a certain restriction of players.
Which is what we would have to do if we were to go to a format like that.
Exactly. So my proposal is you have 1 quarterback on your roster during the season. The only time you can have 2 at the max is if 1, your starter is actually out for the game or, doubtful. 2, you got a quarterback on a bye week. Then you can go pick up your second quarterback. Because obviously there's only 32 starting NFL quarterbacks. So 24 times 2, obviously that's going to go over a good bit for the starting quarterbacks in the league. So you have to go to 1 quarterback. Also, I think that's going to make quarterbacks more valuable. You're going to see now where quarterbacks are going to be starting to get drafted early in the draft, because there's a big difference between your QB1 and your QB24. Big difference. On top of that, you have 1 starting running back, 1 starting receiver / tight end, 1 starting defensive lineman, 1 starting linebacker, 1 starting defensive back, and then 1 flex player. And then everything after that is going to be, so 6 players will be on your bench, including 1 IR spot, which would be the same as kind of how we.
Yeah, we would need to flesh out what a roster would look like, maybe, and present an example of what a roster would look like in this.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on. I'm kind of working on duplicating our league, actually. But it's not going to be our actual league. That way I can adjust all the rosters and let everyone kind of see what this would look like and the types of players that would be dispersed around the league. But then the other issue at hand, and I don't think it's fair for me to just kind of dictate how we're going to decide keepers going forward and stuff like that. I think we all need to work together in figuring out what's the best way to go forward. Is it we bid on keepers when we're merging the player pools, or do we start from scratch, which I personally do not want to do? Or if someone's got a better option. Those are the 2 that have come to my mind so far. I like the idea of us bidding. Let's just make it easy math. Everyone has $100. You can bid on your 4 keepers, if you want to even bid on that many, to decide who's going to get what. So maybe I'm just dead set on Christian McCaffrey and I've got to have him. And I'm like, screw it. I don't want anyone else. I put $100 in Christian McCaffrey. More than likely, I'll probably win Christian McCaffrey, but I'm in total rebuild mode after that. I literally have to draft for every single position, which will hurt. Now, if you're a team that's like that, where you don't have much talent, but you got this one stud, then yeah, go by all means. You probably should do that, honestly, which I think would be a lot of fun, a lot of strategy involved, and I think it'll make the offseason interesting because we'd have to have probably a solid week, I would imagine, of bidding on keepers and stuff like that. And I think it'd be a lot of fun.
So what I was going to say real quick about the other league that we're in, it's 2 per position: 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 defensive line, 2 linebacker, 2 defensive back, and then you can have 1 extra of any that's not a quarterback. So running back, wide receiver, defensive line, linebacker, defensive back, and that's up to your discretion for who you choose that 1 extra person, and you can flip back and forth, obviously, throughout that you want to, but you can never go over 3 potentially or under 2. And it just kind of it makes you very, very strategic in who you pick up, and because there's so much limitations and restrictions on your roster.
And we don't want to get too into the weeds on the podcast, especially with it being, it is a fairly big proposal, but that is some of the kind of eagle's eye or bird's eye view, I guess, and we can kind of flesh out some of the details.
But you also know this is not a new thing. He proposed the same thing last year, so
Yeah.
it's not like it's a
Hopefully, I can just
shock.
provide more detail for everyone, and hopefully just clarify
Explain
a lot
it.
of people's issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll do a few more of these before we get to the actual voting. All right, guys. Well, that's all we had for this show. We'll see you in the second episode that we're going to record here now, and for the preview. So, guys, anything before we jump off?
Bye, girl.
Nope.
No. All right. All right, guys. See you next episode.